Minotaur. Hello everybody, DM Dungeon Mastery here, and today we're going to be looking at the Minotaur from 2014. Excuse me. The 2014 edition of the Minotaur from the Monster Manual. It's not a horrible creature. It's a low challenge rating creature. That's what's important. We have to be very careful with what we change, because if it's intended to be a lower level monster and we put too many high powered attacks on it, it's gonna upset the balance of things. So let's go from top to bottom on the 2014 one, and then we'll jump into mine and see what we did. I think you'll like what I did with mine. It's not a typical rework of mine, it's a little bit different, but without further ado, here we go. It's got an armor class of 14. This is natural armor, so that's implying that they have tough hide, 76 hit points, speed of 40 feet. Seems good to me. We got pretty good stat allocations. Proficiencies. We have a proficiency in perception. Then we have a 60-foot dark vision. They live underground typically, so that's good. They speak Abyssal, which is creepy. They have a challenge rating of 3, proficiency bonus of 2, and then moving into the special traits section of this, this is an iconic ability of the Minotaur. It's a pretty strong ability. It makes them deal like a shocking amount of damage. So it's called Charge. If the Minotaur moves at least 10 feet straight towards a target and hits it with a gore attack on the same turn, the target takes an extra 2d8 piercing damage. If the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 14 strength save or be pushed up to 10 feet away and knocked prone. So that's a pretty cool ability. I like that ability a lot. I think that adds dynamics to the fight. The Minotaur doesn't just charge in and do nothing. It opens up with a really big move. So I like that. Then we have Labyrinthine Recall, which is this is just a Minotaur lore thing. They always know where they're at in mazes and things like that. So that's what this is referencing. And then we have Reckless, which is a barbarian ability. At the start of its turn, the Minotaur can gain advantage on all melee weapon attack rolls it makes during that turn, but attack rolls against it have advantage until the start of its next turn. I wanted to change this ability into Blood Frenzy because it references that exact thing in the wiki. When they smell blood, when they start injuring creatures, they just start gaining advantage on all attack rolls. But that would definitely upset the balance of the creature. So if I make a higher level version of a Minotaur stat block in the future, I would definitely add that over Reckless. I would just give it Blood Frenzy instead, because it's just a better ability in my opinion. That's going to be it for the special traits. Let's move into the actions. We have a Great Axe attack, which does 2d12 slashing damage, which is scary for a CR3 creature. And then we have a Gore attack, which does 2d8 piercing damage. But if they get hit with the charge, that's 4d8 piercing damage. But you'll notice there's a lack of multi-attack on this stat block. So it attacks once, and then if it misses, that's a big waste of a turn. So I did something a little bit different with my stat block. We'll get into that here in a minute, but I didn't want to give it multi-attack. You'll see what I did. Let's get into my stat block. Alright, so getting into my stat block, I think what I'm going to do from now on is, if I didn't change anything on the first half, we're just going to scroll through it really fast instead of me reading over the abilities that are already on the base stat block. So we'll skip to what changes I did make. So it still has most of its proficiencies, but I did give it an athletics skill proficiency. I could have given it a strength saving throw proficiency, but the thing is, like, any little change that you do really upsets the balance of these low CR creatures, so we have to be really careful with what we change. so I abstained from adding any sort of saving throw proficiencies or anything like that, trying to keep it on the level that it's supposed to be on. However, here's my thought process when I reworked the Minotaur. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, this creature needs to be a living, breathing wrecking ball of havoc and chaos. It's got chaos, it's got chaotic evil as its alignment. It's a large monstrosity. It has horns. I'm thinking of Baldur's Gate 3 when I think of the actual size of these things. Because before Baldur's Gate 3, I didn't think Minotaurs were actually that large, but I think Baldur's Gate did them justice with how big they made them. I actually like that a lot, and that gave me like this idea with them. You're going to see when we're going to move into the actions right now. You're going to see with the actions, almost every attack requires a saving throw if you're smaller than the Minotaur, except for one of them. Two of them, actually. But they're flavorful, and you'll see what I did. I made sure to use every possible thing that I could think of. But of course, if you come up with something else, leave it down in the comments, because I could always update these stat blocks, and if you come up with a cool idea that I may have overlooked, we can add it to the stat block, and then we make a greater creature altogether. So let's start off from the top here. The Great Axe. So I kept it the same, but I added something cool to the Great Axe. Because the Minotaur only has one attack a turn, if it misses, it does nothing, and that feels really bad. It feels like a whole waste of a turn. So I gave the Minotaur the Graze weapon mastery from the new 2024 D&D that's coming out, and what this says is if the Minotaur misses an attack against a creature with this weapon, it grazes it, dealing 4 slashing damage regardless. So even if it misses with a Great Axe attack, it still does 4 damage no matter what. It's not a lot, but it's still something. So no matter what, its brute strength just punches through the armor that it tries to hit, and it misses, or yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool ability. So after the Great Axe, we move into the Gore attack. I changed Gore slightly, and by changed it, I mean I added something to it, and I think this is a cool change. So it's not like Graze with the Great Axe. The Great Axe is supposed to be like its strongest weapon, so that should be the weapon that has the Graze mastery. But when you get hit with the Gore from the Minotaur, if you are large or smaller, you have to make a DC 14 con save, or you become staggered. And what staggered does is a staggered creature cannot use actions. It may take a bonus action or move up to its speed on its turn, but not both until the end of their next turn. So yeah, it's like you're getting hit with this running freight train of a monster with massive horns on it. You're probably going to get staggered. You're not going to be able to just get up from that. Even if you're a barbarian, a Goliath barbarian would get steamrolled and trampled by this monster. That's how it should feel. So I think that fits with the Minotaur's brute strength, without giving it the brute strength trait, because that would make it deal too much damage. But that's Gore, and that's on top of if you get hit with the charge attack. Imagine that. You get hit with the charge attack, you get pushed 10 feet, you get knocked prone. Then, if you fail this con save, you are staggered, you can't use actions, and you can either move or use a bonus action. So that means, I'm pretty sure that would mean you can either choose to stand up, or you can stay laying on the ground and maybe drink a potion and hope for the best that the Minotaur doesn't slam you with his Great Axe the next turn. Yeah, that's a cool, flavorful, big buff change to this big. This is an absolute unit of a monster, I think. Minotaurs are pretty cool. I'm a fan of the Beastmen from Warhammer, so I tried to do the Minotaurs justice here. I kind of got a lot of inspiration from that. I was doing this. So we'll move into this fist attack here. Now this is if the Minotaur gets disarmed. Now you might be saying, well, he has a gore attack, why would he ever use his fist? Well, the fist is a catalyst to grapple something, or if there is a reason for him to use his fist, like, I don't know, his horns get broken off by some of your creative players, or they somehow disable his horns. I just wanted him to have a way to use his fist. But really, what you're supposed to be using this for is when you punch something, you end up grabbing it instead, and then that'll lead into something else later on, you'll see. But after the fist, we have Brutal Hoof. So Minotaurs have big hooves. They should be able to use these big hooves. It does 2d6 bludgeoning damage when you get hit with it, and then if the creature is large or smaller, it has to succeed on a DC 14 strength save or be pushed 10 feet and be knocked prone. Otherwise, you just take the damage and then nothing happens. So yeah, everything that you're getting hit with by this Minotaur, you're getting knocked backwards, dazed, you're out of it when you're getting hit with something that this guy does. And that's what it should feel like. It should feel like you're fighting a wrecking ball. So that's Brutal Hoof. Let's move into Brutal Leap. And if you've played Baldur's Gate, you recognize this ability. I ripped it straight from the game, which is actually a nice form of inspiration. If I ever need to see what Larian did with their version of these monsters, I can kind of take that. And because Baldur's Gate is so similar to D&D, it's easy to just graft abilities from that. So Brutal Leap is the Minotaur leaps up to 15 feet to a point within its reach if it has movement to do so. So yeah, it has to be able to jump somewhere. It can't, if it moved all of its 40 feet, it won't be able to do this. But this is a way to, if all the players are clumped up in one area, they leap in, and then all the players have to make a dex save if they're within 10 feet of the Minotaur. On a failure, they take 3d6 bludgeoning damage and they fall prone. Or if they succeed, they take half damage and they don't fall prone. So yeah, you could just kind of see he's angry. It's a recharge ability, so he can't use it every turn. It's like he gets a little winded after he uses it the first time. So I think that's a pretty cool ability. This all adds up when you start bringing multiple Minotaurs in. So even if you have a second Minotaur, just imagine they're running in there and they're throwing wizards around, punching rogues off cliffs, goring fighters into walls. It's a fun time for you and the players, because it's not just surrounded pound. Like, my philosophy is to always make sure things aren't just a surrounded pound, because that's boring. Last but not least, we have the coup de grace, the very cool ability. This is what I thought about when I'm thinking of like the Minotaur and Warhammer. We have Impaling Toss. So this goes back to the fist attack. The Minotaur drives its horns upward, impaling a grappled target and hurling it 15 feet in a direction of its choice. The creature takes 2d8 piercing damage and lands prone. Larger or smaller creatures must make a DC 14 con save or become staggered. So it's the same situation with the horn attack. So if you get hit with this, you go flying through the air, you hit the ground. A Minotaur should be throwing bodies around. That should be just a thing. So yeah, it's a simple rework. It's not a super in-depth one, but I wanted to keep it on the level of a CR3 monster, so it can only use one of these a turn. Other than the fist can grapple something and then it can follow up with an Impaling Toss. Yeah, the Impaling Toss also just happens automatically, keep in mind. So once they hit with the fist and they choose to grapple, then Impaling Toss can just happen. They don't have to make a second attack roll. And I think that is gonna do it for a Minotaur. I know there was a lot of requests for this, and I know it's not on the same level as the Troll, but the Troll was also a CR5 monster to begin with. So much like the Ogre, I wanted to keep the Minotaur in its category, so we don't make every creature incredibly strong so that no low-level players have anything fun to fight. I want to still have low-level things that players have to fight at lower levels. So this is DM Dungeon Mastery. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Leave me some critical feedback in the comments if you disliked it. Tell me what I could do better. Give me some of your ideas if you have any. Like the video, subscribe, join my Discord channel. Link is in the description. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye.